We're live. On. Hi. Did everybody accept Adriana? I'm gonna start. Good evening and welcome to the first board meeting of the year. Happy New Year. We're glad to have you here. Happy to see students here, excited to hear your presentations and just see your excitement as you share with us the things you've been doing and things you're excited about. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance to start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. We also want to welcome our new board member, Brooke Ballard, and our other new board member wasn't able to join us tonight, but we'll be seeing her soon. And also our student board member, Tanner Esplin, and we'll be introducing, but we're glad you're here with us. Item 1.3 is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Mr. Anderson, would you like to introduce Tanner before we continue on with item 1.4?
I would love to introduce Tanner. So Tanner, thanks for being here with us tonight. We love having the student board member with us. Your principal, Mr. McEnany, sent us a few things to say about you. So for the information of everyone here, Tanner Esplin is a senior at Spring Creek High School. He currently has a 4.6 GPA. Good job. Tanner is enrolled in several AP classes, including AP Government. He plans to attend UNR in the fall and study neuroscience. No big deal, just neuroscience. And side note, I know I've hung out with Tanner before. I just don't remember where I know this young man from. Can you remind me how I know you? Oh, yes.
Favorite place.
I go to Fizz a lot, and Tanner, yes, that is where I told her, I'm like, I don't know where, but I know this kid. And it's probably because, yeah, you see me more often than my family does sometimes. So, all right. Hey, thanks for, I especially like you now. This is so great. I'm so glad you're here. Anyway, that's the rest of the paper. Sorry to hash that out in front of everybody. Thanks for being here, Tanner.
Yeah, welcome. All right, we'll start with item 1.4, a presentation from the Spring Creek Middle School Student CPR Certification. All right, Mrs. McDermott.
I want to thank all the supportive parents and for bringing their children out today, traveling in the snow and weather for us. I'm Sally McDermott. I'm the principal of Spring Creek Middle School. Mrs. Smith is also here this evening. She's the vice principal, and Mr. Gordon, I'm sure, is virtual. So I'll let Ms. Davis get set up.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm just going to give a quick overview. I'd also like to highlight some other programs that we have going on at Spring Creek Middle School that are related to the presentation this evening. So our focus tonight is career and technical education, and I know you've received some presentations in the past from Heather Still and some other schools, but CTE has been a vital part of our school district. It's a vital pathway for our schools. We create pathways that feed the high school. And so as a middle school, we start to create that interest for our students and try to expose them to as many as possible. And we want to prepare them for those careers that they might be interested in. And it also gives them different technical interest, employable skills that we also try to integrate into their academic studies. And through these opportunities, they can earn certificates, apprenticeships, employment, and post-secondary degrees. Just some quick facts about it. The graduation rates are usually very high for individuals in these programs. Students are less likely to drop out of high school. We want to encourage our students for those post-secondary studies and lots of different industries and pathways through CTE. I am going to add one other kind of bonus program that we have going on at Spring Creek Middle School too. These are some of the pathways available. Our focus at Spring Creek Middle School is Ag Ventures, Teening to Adulting, Building Engineers, Everyday Heroes, and Digital Designers. So some of these are 7th grade classes and 8th grade classes. And then we also have some exploratory classes in the 6th grade. Our Ag Ventures students, they have the opportunity to explore agriculture science, plants and animals. They participate in hands-on labs and lessons. And they also gain a basic understanding of the National FFA organization. And for our school specifically, they organize an Ag in the Classroom event that all of our 6th graders get to participate in. So here's a few examples of some of the learning going on in that classroom. It's fun walking in when they have colored poultry and they're building different horticulture things. We have Teening to Adulting, primarily a 7th grade class that partners with Miss Davis's Everyday Heroes class. So they focus on sewing. Some of the projects they've done this year are slap bracelet pin cushions, drawstring bags, t-shirts, pillows, quillos, pillowcases, aprons, and some hand stitching booklets. They also focus on culinary skills. And through that, they work on their public speaking, by participating in group presentations. They learn about like appliances, and through those appliances, specifically safety rules, and they select recipes, and then their peers make their recipes in their kitchen. So one of the things they focused on this year is their different food groups. A new program that we've added through our Family Consumer Science, the Teening to Adulting, is child development. So we're partnering with Sage Elementary, our neighbors, and our students are going over and actually teaching. So they're working with preschoolers and kindergartners over there. They're really enjoying it. So they're learning about the developmental stages of students so that we can introduce them to the teaching profession. They've worked on structuring read alouds with specific questioning skills. They've given them assessments. They've worked on small motor skills through crafts, and then they exposed them to the importance of dramatic play by participating in a teddy bear hospital. So there's some pictures from that. So lots of smiles. They really enjoy having their students. Digital Designers is a new course that we've added for our 7th graders, and it partners with an art class. Here's 2 projects from our 7th grade students. In this class, they learn how to become graphic designers, photographers, movie makers, and web designers. So the example on the left is a student who used her digital camera in different modes to capture that photograph. On the right side, also a 7th grader, took elements from 4 different pictures and then used the editing to combine them into one really stunning picture. Building Engineers, you might also know it as robotics, is another course that students really enjoy taking. A lot of these projects are through the hands-on VEX. They this year interviewed a local mine engineer, and were actually shown projections of one of our local mine projects. They use the scientific method to work through the design processes and coding skills that help them program a car later on. They always do a lot of projects that are story-based or have a purpose. And so one of them was a wind turbine for a village with no power. They worked on a pool toy for entertaining young students during a natural disaster. And they're currently building different resources that could be used or needed in like an end of world type of scenario. So super high interest. And those are some examples. So this is our bonus class that I wanted to talk to you about before these guys take over. So it's not officially a CTE class. This one was designed by one of our staff members who has special interest in this. It started as a club last year during advisory, and now it's a 7th grade year-long elective for ham radio. Some highlights: we have 5 students who have already received their amateur radio licenses. One of them's a technician class, or 4 of them are technician class and 1 are general class. So you'll see them walking around the school with radios and stuff. Several more are taking their test at the end of this month. They host their own radio net every Tuesday afternoon. And they also participate in the local net that happens every Wednesday night. It's completely ran by the students, although other people from the community join in. And that currently they're learning how to solder, and they're building small kits to learn about electrical circuits and components. They participated in hunts where they had a transmitter that was hidden around campus, and they used the radios to find those transmitters. And then in the spring, they're going to be building different types of antennas. There's some pictures from that class. It's also a club that takes place on Fridays after school. So now we're to Everyday Heroes. And we have Miss Davis here, the teacher of that course, and some of our students. Do you want me to read this section or do you want to go ahead? Okay. Go.
So between the course itself and the HOSA, the students learn a lot of skills. So they learn fire safety, they learn the fire triangle and how to eliminate and put out fires. They learn how to operate a fire extinguisher, and they have to use it and actually show that they understand the pass system in order to use it. They learn workplace etiquette. I'm actually working with Danny Rubin right now, and he gave us an opportunity to partner with him and use his Rubin Learning and pilot it in my classroom and everything for free this next semester. And he has a lot of great things about emails and how to write the proper email, how to write the proper letter, how to respond to interview questions and things like that. So it's going to be great for them to learn, to have that ready to go for later on. They learn the correct spelling and how to pronounce anatomical terms. And I brought Lily, and she is going to be able to name the bones. They learn that there's 206 bones. They learn all the names of the bones. They learn about how doctors use detective work and different vital signs in order to diagnose patients. And they also learn how to take vital signs. So they practice taking vital signs on each other in the class, and they learn what's normal and what's not. They give an imaginary patients, and they have to take the information and work together in order to solve it and figure out what they would diagnose that patient with and how they would treat them. And they learn how to perform CPR on both adults and infants. And before I let them demonstrate for you and show you how they would save a life on both an adult and an infant, I brought my vice president of HOSA to tell you a little about our HOSA and what we've been up to at Spring Creek Middle School.
My name is Courtney Smith. We are here as part of our SCMS HOSA chapter. HOSA's mission is to promote career opportunities in the health industry and to enhance the delivery of quality healthcare to all people. As part of HOSA, we get to learn about the field of medicine and jobs in the medical field. We also learn about leadership and responsibility. We do this by attending leadership conferences, holding officer positions, competing in different events at state and nations, running fundraisers, and doing philanthropy. For Christmas, we sold elf grams to spread cheer at our middle school and raise money for future events. We donated and decorated a tree at the Festival of Trees to help raise money for our community.
All right. So Addison, you want to lead him? No, Lily, you're going to lead.
So did we start with like walking into?
Go through your steps.
Okay, we're walking in, we're making sure the scene is safe. The scene is safe. We're checking for any visible injuries. We're gonna see if the baby's conscious. No, it's not. I'm checking for pulse. There's no pulse. He's not breathing. Okay. Then I'm gonna start. Okay, I'm gonna start chest compressions, get the AED, call 911, and do this.
Count out loud.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
Adult patient. Give the child patient. Remove the child's shirt. Remove packet and apply pads onto child's bare skin. Press pads firmly on skin. Apply pads to child's back and chest as shown in the pictures. Apply pads to child's back and chest as shown in the pictures. Press pads firmly on skin. Apply pads to child's back and chest as shown.
They are not wanting to read well today. So Then they would go on from there and they would continue the CPR until when?
Till it would tell us to back up and press the red button, and then it would shock it, and then afterwards we would do 30 chest compressions, and it would count for us, while after that they would do 2 rescue breaths until either medical assistance arrived or until the baby woke up.
Okay.
Are we doing the adult now?
Okay, go ahead and move it in front.
The scene is safe. Sir, are you awake? Okay, not conscious. Breathing. Yeah, I'm gonna start chest compressions, get the AED, and do rest
Adult patient. Give the patient a child. Press the child button. Remove clothing from the patient's chest. Remove packet and apply pad on the patient's bare skin. Press firmly on skin. Apply pressed pads firmly on skin. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing heart. Do not touch the patient. Analyzing. Shock advised. Do not touch the patient. Everyone clear. Press the flashing shock. Shock delivered. CPR.
Okay, so then they would continue again. So they've done a really good job. This is a new lesson that we just got into and everything like that, of getting all the steps down as far as knowing what to do. We'll move into first aid and that as the week goes on. Didn't make it. The little red things are pocket masks, so that you also have one of your little barriers that you can use if you ever pick up CPR.
Awesome. Thank
Any
you.
student gets one of those in talk.
Is Lily still doing the bones? That's awesome. Just have one more.
Wow, he stands so straight.
Right? You're a whole
Oh, okay. Do I just like casually name those?
I'll go
You
through.
can point. Okay, thank you. Frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal, zygomatic, maxilla, mandible, cervical, clavicle, scapula, thoracic, lumbar, coccyx. Wait, no, sternum. No, sacrum,
Good.
coccyx, ribs, sternum, xiphotic process, humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, phalanges, pelvis, femur, patella, tibula, fibula, tarsals, metatarsals, phalanges.
Job.
For you all that perform CPR, just come introduce yourselves real quick, and then you can see if there's any questions. Just right here, just come say who you are.
My name's Liliana Benavides. Do you guys have any questions? Okay.
I'm Isabel Hansen. I'm Addison Judy. I'm Morgan Zastro. Any questions?
All right, any questions from the board?
How
No
long did it,
questions.
oh, I was gonna say, how long did it take you to learn all the bones, memorize all those bones?
Well, so it doesn't really take too long because in AB3 we would practice it. So, and then even after that, if you wanted to like pass your test, you would study. But as long as you memorized, because they point a lot when you're doing it. So as long as you remember where they're pointing and the order, then it's
Pretty easy, huh?
We spent about 3 weeks of them learning it. We would do it probably at least 40 times, and they would have races and challenges to see who could say them faster, whether it was the boys or the girls. And so it was interesting. They had to pay attention. So one would say a bone and they'd have to know the bone that came right after it.
who was the fastest?
Lily was the fastest, saying them for every class and for 83 as well. You got him what, 8 seconds? To name all of them?
7.9.
Wow.
She was very fast.
All right, any other questions from the board?
Not really a question, just a comment on that. I'm really happy to see you guys doing this. And I mean, anybody who's watched TV in the last couple of weeks can understand how important CPR is and how it can save lives. I've seen it both in person and you know, on TV, like say with the football player in the last week, he wouldn't be alive today if he didn't get CPR immediately and right away. So it's a very valuable skill. And I would urge everybody to learn. But I'd like to commend you all for doing such a great job.
Thank you for the good, Matt.
Thank you, ladies.
I do, just one other quick question. Do they get CPR certification through the class?
They will be able to get
Okay,
CPR certification.
awesome.
We're gonna have to do it outside of the class itself and not for the hours, but yeah.
That's awesome.
So it'll be through Red Cross.
All right, well, thank you. And let's give them a hand. Thank you for having. All right, we'll move on to item 1.5, receive a presentation from the Nevada Outdoor School. Melanie, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Let's see.
Just sit right here.
Oops. All right, thanks everybody. So I've handed out some packets of a little bit of what we're going to tell you about today. So my name is Melanie Urquiaga. I'm Executive Director at Nevada Outdoor School. I've got Dr. Brandolyn Thron. She is with us. She's our outgoing Associate Director. Megan Rich, she's our programs coordinator. So she's the one that's talking with the teachers and the students and getting everything set up and scheduled. And then we have Carl Klein, and he is our incoming Associate Director. So he'll be starting with us here on Friday. So we're excited about that. It's kind of a weird quink dink. Brandolyn's going to the Battleborn Youth Academy and Carl's coming to us from the Battleborn Youth Academy. Completely different positions, but we're feeling that there's some magic going to happen here. There's going to be some collaboration, something really fun happening. So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to introduce Nevada Outdoor School to those that are new to the school board, as well as Superintendent Anderson. We haven't had a chance to really sit down and chat yet, and to update you about our programs that we provide to Elko County communities and the successes we have been having with your teachers and the students. I hit that. What do I hit? There we go. Thank you. The mission of Nevada Outdoor School is to inspire exploration of the natural world, responsible stewardship of our habitat, and dedication to community. And dedication to community with a wide variety of youth training and community-focused programs. National service is at the heart of what we do, and the Nevada Outdoor School AmeriCorps program places national service members at a variety of nonprofit organizations across rural Nevada, including right here at Nevada Outdoor School. Since our first AmeriCorps grant award in 2007, 371 members have successfully completed 295,356 hours of service, and this is a big one, and earned over 1.3 million in Segal Education Awards that can be used to pay for future higher education, to pay for some professional development, or to pay back qualified student loans. So I think that's something, again, just through a little nonprofit organization based out of rural Nevada, this is the impact that we've been able to have on folks. And the impact they have on us is even greater. Our AmeriCorps outdoor educators serving with NOS help provide a wide variety of youth training and healthy community programs that deepen people's connection to, understanding of, and respect for the natural world. At NOS, we're all about getting people outside responsibly, increasing people's time spent outdoors, and providing them a motivation, knowledge, and skills to be stewards of our environment. Utilizing our action impact choice AIC model, so we're sporting real proud. And our outdoor ethics philosophy, we challenge people to analyze their action, evaluate the impacts, both positive and negative, that those actions may have, and choose wisely to hopefully positively impact their environment and minimize negative impacts when possible. We want Nevadans to be healthy, happy, and engaged community members who feel connected to the natural world and choose to explore the outdoors responsibly. You all have a 9-grid diagram that I shared with you that breaks down our training and community programs in more detail. But today we're here to talk about our youth programs and what we're serving Elko County students with. You also have this graphic that summarizes our successes here in Elko County. In the 21-22 school year, we visited 13 schools and 64 teachers and served over 1,300 students with outdoor education topics like weather and the seasons, energy and trash, minerals and natural resources, animal adaptions, the immigrant trails and native artifacts, and our very robust Humboldt River watershed field experience. So far in this school year, we've already educated over 630 students. So we're on pace to really increase that. Our youth-focused programs inspire, motivate, and empower the younger generation to take a greater interest in nature and see the outdoors as an amazing place to learn and explore. Why is what we do important? Because nature deficit disorder is really a thing. Numerous studies show that children's behavior can suffer mentally and physically from lack of access to outdoor space, a problem heightened by the pandemic. As young people spend less of their lives in natural surroundings, their senses narrow, both physiologically and psychologically. Ironically, the 2020 coronavirus pandemic, as tragic as it has been, has dramatically increased people's awareness of the deep human need for nature connection and is adding a greater sense of urgency to the movement to connect children, families, and communities to nature. When children have space to move outdoors, they seem calmer, more regulated, more focused, engaged, and happier. They do better on tests and assignments, and in turn give them confidence to excel in school. Mr. Anderson, I hope that you and the school board trustees continue to believe that outdoor education and time spent outdoors is a great value to Elko County students, and that you continue to help fund our efforts. You will see in this slide and in our 2021 annual report that I also shared with you that we're very diversified in our funding sources, but showing the school district buys in to the importance of our programs really helps us leverage what we receive from the school district and other funding and grant proposals, and helps us to continue to expand our services even more as students. I'm going to now show you a little video of kind of summarizes what we've been doing. It's here based out of Elko County and shows a few words from some teachers and stuff too. So I have no sound. The speaker, see that? There, yeah, do that. Click on that. Okay, here we go.
Next coming.
Made you run. That's a fun video. If anybody knows Chris from Skyfall, he did a really excellent job for us. Anyway, I'm really proud of that. Obviously, we phased out of the masks and all of that sort of thing, but we plan, we prepare, we adapt to a lot of different situations, and virtual learning was one of them. It wasn't our favorite thing to do because we love to get outside, but we, made it work, and we sailed through. Nobody had to get laid off. We, made it through the pandemic, and we are just continuing to grow and thrive here in Elko County. So we really appreciate the support. Does anybody have any questions for me or for any of the staff?
Any questions from the board? Okay, well, thank you for your presentation, and thank you for all that you do for our students, helping our teachers. It's a great program, so thank you.
All right, we appreciate your support. Thank you, guys.
I'd like
Thank you.
just to do a quick comment. I think just from the presentation we watched earlier from Spring Creek Middle School, and they talked about ag in the classroom and then what you're
Mhm.
doing. I think that that's huge for our kids to enjoy being outdoors and learn more about being outdoors. And I think that's great. So I appreciate both what they offer at Spring Creek Middle School and then what you guys are offering to our students. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. I think variety is really important, and we're here to help. And like we said,
Learning.
time spent outdoors is good for all of us.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we will now move on to item 1.6, receive an update from Southwest Food Service Excellence, SFE. This is a non-action item. Welcome.
Happy New Year. I'm afraid I don't have any present or visual aids for this. So yeah, I would just personally like to thank you for choosing SFE number one. We're happy to be here. We do have a great team. Part of that was already here, the employees that were here before the last company, and they've been fantastic in helping us succeed. It's a bit of a transition for sure, but it feels like we're moving forward in a good and productive way. I'm supposed to insert a joke here, but I actually don't have one. So yeah, it looks like we some good news. We have been approved for a grant that will be able to supply money for pay raises for the kitchen staff for the Elko County School District staff, but also our SFE staff. So they work hard, they're very committed, they deserve it. So that's really good news. It's a grant, we don't have to pay extra money. So pretty excited about that. That should go into effect here pretty soon. We are up to done about 500,000 meals for 2022. So there's a few. No signs of slowing down. I think this leads up to some other good news. Next school year has already been approved for all free meals for all the kids for breakfast and lunch for the whole district. So that's kind of nice. One less thing we need to worry about, and we can continue to offer what I think is important. Some kids might be the only good meal they get, during the day. So that is good news. It makes our job a little easier and more rewarding as well. That leads to another topic. Looks like we've had some really good feedback on the food, at least by the students, especially pizza, I find. And as a person that has a career in feeding people, I like to hear love to hear that, the actual, they love the food. So we're going to continue to try to provide that. In addition to a pay raise grant, also through Veronica Cervantes's hard work, we have received a sizable grant for new kitchen appliances, which are definitely needed in some of the older schools. Definitely need an update. So that is has come into fruition. So we're proceeding with that. And again, yeah, I just like to thank you. It's enjoyable. This is an enjoyable district and community to work in. I'm not a very social person or don't get involved in a lot of things, but you guys are definitely starting to make me want to. So I think this is a great community, and that's also helped kind of put the S on our chests, basically, as far as why are we doing this? We're not just doing it for money. We want to help the community, and the kids are a big part of that. And the good things that come out of it. So and that part of that is you guys as well. So definitely want to thank you, and hope I didn't sound too shaky. I haven't done a lot of presentations. So and yeah, I was just trying to keep it short and sweet. So but any questions? And this goes 24/7 throughout the year as well. Anytime anybody has questions, they can always email me or call me. My name's George. I'm the general manager for SFE here. So, but yeah, any questions or concerns?
Any questions from the board? Any comments on the food, Tanner? Any things you just love?
Yeah, Tanner.
I would just like to comment that I think the most underappreciated people at schools are members of SFE and all the lunch ladies. I don't think anybody else has to deal with every single kid at the school every day. And I've never seen a ugly face. Back they're super sweet and make good food and are always there.
Wow, that's great to hear, and I will pass that along. So.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, thank you, and we
Yeah,
appreciate the progress you're making and providing our students with meals.
You bet.
Thank you.
You got it. Thanks.
Thanks, George.
Thank you, George. Thank you. All right, we will move on to item 1.7, input from the public. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. A speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. This is a non-action item. Is there anyone who wishes to make a comment? All right, we'll carry on to item 2.1, which is reorganization of the Board of Trustees. I can read through all of these, or you can all just look at which ones we've got, and we will go down in order. Basically, they're all the different positions. We will take nominations and vote on those and just proceed until we have filled all of those positions. So unless there's any discussion, I will open the floor for nominations, starting with selection of the president.
Madam Chair, move to nominate Teresa Dastrup as president.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for president? All right, well, if not, I guess we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of selecting Teresa Dastrup as the president, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? And this is one time where I can vote aye as well. I don't think that's a conflict of interest. I have to do this, so I'll vote aye. All right, we will move on to selection of the clerk. Any nominations?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Matt McCarty as the clerk.
I'll second.
All right, we have got Matt as a nomination. Anyone else? Any other nominations? All right. All in favor of approving Matt as the board clerk, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, and Matt is our new clerk. Next is a representative to the Debt Management Commission. Any nominations? Any
I'm happy to
volunteers?
retain that seat if that would help anyone.
I'll go ahead and nominate Matt McCarty for that position.
I'll second.
All right, we have a nomination and a second. Any other nominations? All right, all in favor of Matt staying as our debt management representative, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and Matt, congratulations.
Can I
All right.
interrupt for just one second?
please.
If anyone has any questions about what any positions entail, I certainly can't. I probably will be unsuccessful in saying every little thing you could possibly do in one of these, but I can give a general idea about what that function, is. So feel free to, you are cruising along great, but if you have a question, please ask.
Thank you. I should have clarified that. Thank you, CJ. All right, the next one is our NASB representative. And as this is a legislative year, we can choose as a board to divide this out and have a legislative liaison separate from the director and also an alternate director. Or we can keep the legislative liaison and the director as the same person. So that's the will of the board on how you'd like to do that. So I can open that for discussion before we take nominations.
I would just add, I've been serving in that. It's the past year. I've really enjoyed it. I'd be happy to continue if y'all would have me. And I am interested in any or all of it. So.
Okay, any other thoughts, questions?
I would agree with that. I think perhaps we should find an alternate director just in case.
Well, no, we
Right.
would definitely have an
I'm
alternate.
just
I'm
giving
just
you a hard
saying,
time.
yeah, I'm saying
But
we
no,
could
I
divide
appreciate
it
you
out
taking on the
into
legislative
three.
side.
We could divide it out into three because like I said, it's a legislative year. There's a lot of information that comes in. But the legislative liaison and the director can be one and the same person, or those can be two. But we will absolutely have an alternate. So,
And Jeff, you're good with taking on the
I
liaison
am.
as well?
I would be very interested in both. I've talked a little bit about that with some of the leadership at NASB, and I've worked a little bit with Paige and her team already. So I feel comfortable going in, but I also did want to leave that open as it is a legislative year. And if there's anywhere we need to be going with that, but I do feel prepared on it. I still have the time and ability to be able to travel and do. I've really enjoyed it, getting to know a lot of people around the state and talking about some of the issues that are facing a lot of us districts. And it's been nice to see how everybody's kind of come together, even Clark County, with NASB. So moving forward on that, I'm ready to go.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
What would the benefit be to have two representatives? It says two representatives will have a combined vote on said committee, but so I'm just wondering, what would the benefits be? Was that?
do you want to answer?
We're-
Oh, never
Mr.
mind.
Anderson?
Sorry, I
Yeah,
am
that's a
looking at
different position
Yeah,
you're
okay.
looking at.
Right.
Sorry
Well,
about that.
to answer that, and real quick, so Tanner, just so you know, NASB is the Nevada Association of School Boards. So that's our professional organization. Just so you're aware. We don't want you to be up here we get lots of acronyms in education, and sometimes we don't clarify because it's something we're used to, but
There's a
we will
lot of
definitely
acronyms.
clarify our acronyms up here. As far as Brooke, if you're asking about, would there be a benefit to having a legislative liaison and a director?
Right.
Just simply if someone says, hey, I have time to do one, but maybe not both.
Mhm.
But if someone, Jeff is saying, hey, I think I can handle them both.
I'll be out with the legislative session regardless this year. I've made some contacts there and would like to go see how that all works. So I think it fits right in, but I also know that we have done that separate in the past. So for me, it's kind of uncharted territory, but it's not something I don't think I can not handle. It's absolutely something I'm definitely interested in.
Okay. Well, it's the will of the board. How would we like to proceed with that?
Is there anyone else that is interested in alternate?
Well, we're still gonna pick an alternate,
I
right?
will still pick an
This
alternate.
is just for the
Yeah.
This is just
legislative
whether we
liaison
wanna
and
do-
director.
Yeah.
We're trying to get it all.
Yeah, I was planning on potentially making one motion with everyone.
Gotcha.
Boom.
I would say I wouldn't mind being the alternate director. I served on the executive committee last year. Decided not to continue that this year, but I've got a lot of connections there and I wouldn't mind serving as the alternate if no one else would like to do that.
You were also on the legislative team, correct?
So would there be a benefit then to having you and Jeff split that? And
As far as voting,
I-
it's just the one. the
Yeah,
director
voting it would
vote.
just be
Yeah.
one. So the alternate is just someone that would fill in, say,
If you couldn't
Jeff
make it.
can't be there, I could be there, or whoever was in that position as the alternate.
Okay.
So is there anyone else, since we're trying to do this in one motion? Anyone else? Okay, I guess we should have an official nomination for those.
Madam President, move that Jeff Durham be our legislative liaison and our director to the Nevada Association of School Boards, with Teresa Dastrup as our alternate director.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? All right, all in favor of Jeff as the legislative liaison, as well as the director, and Teresa as the alternate, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and those nominations are complete. The next one is appointments to the Superintendent's Advisory Committee. This will be 3 board members, 2 who will serve on the committee and one as an alternate.
What time does that meet?
There is not a consistent time for that meeting. The Superintendent's Advisory Committee is convened when a second order change is being proposed. So an example of when this would be is if when we get to the 4-day discussion again at the next meeting and you guys say, hey, I'd really like you to do the Superintendent's Advisory Committee, then I would coordinate with all those people and we'd make a meeting. So it's not a regular meeting.
Do we have any nominations? Any volunteers?
I'm going to throw out that that's something that interests me, but
Me too.
Susan, you're currently on there, correct now, right?
Yeah, and I haven't had to do anything yet, so I'd be willing to stay on it.
You can throw me as alternate.
Okay. Are those, we had some interest, are those official nominations for Brooke and Susan as the 2 committee members and Josh as the alternate?
I'll go ahead and make that nomination.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second, or a nomination with a second. Any other volunteers or nominations? All right, all in favor of Brooke and Susan serving on that committee with Josh as the alternate, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and we will move on to the next appointment, which is.
Madam Chair,
oh,
move to
Yep, go ahead.
appoint Susan as the chair for the STARS Committee.
Second.
Excellent. Any other nominations?
That was fast.
Susan, you're doing a great
Amazing job.
Doing a
I
great
see
job.
no
Recognized
reason
talent.
Need to replace you.
All right, all in favor of appointing Susan, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye. And Susan, thank you for your work and continuing. The next one is the Emergency Operations Committee member.
I can continue doing that.
Okay,
Madam President, move to appoint Dr. Josh Byers as Crisis Development
oh,
Committee
no,
member.
Emergency Operations Committee is where we are.
Yeah, so
Hold on.
we-
because the
we
crisis-
changed-
Hold on.
yeah,
okay.
no, I'm
I
giving you some
know.
context here. Let me clear it up.
Yeah.
It was called Crisis Development Committee, which I thought was a really interesting
I thought that was a terrible name. I said that more
to
than
name
once.
something. So since we have something called an emergency operations plan and every school in the district has an emergency operations committee, I figured for, consistency purposes, we would rename that.
I
So we're
appreciate
not
that.
developing crises.
Yeah.
Crisis-
I thought that was a terrible,
crises-
terrible title. I
crises.
like Emergency Operations Committee
All
member
right,
better.
there we go.
I'll still
So
throw my hat in
that's
there.
where the confusion is.
All right.
And I
So,
apologize. I just copied over last year so that I knew who was in there from last year and didn't change the names. So
go.
therefore, Madam President, I move that Dr. Josh Byers be our appointee to the Emergency Operations Committee.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any other nominations or volunteers? Okay, all in favor of appointing Josh to that, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and we'll carry on to the next appointment, which is to the Financial Oversight Committee.
I believe myself, Susan, and Jeff are on there currently. I have no objection staying, but I want to spread the wealth if somebody else wants to get in there too. So
I didn't participate a whole lot, it turns out, in the past year. But I was also wondering just out loud, with Adriana not here, can we nominate her for something such as that though, so we don't leave her out? I'd like to, I'm sure she'd
Well,
be.
and we need 3 on that committee, correct?
Yeah.
So I think that would be, is that an official nomination?
Yes, it
Nominate-
is.
Adrian?
Subtract mine, add hers and send it out.
Okay, so Adriana. Next 2. We have volunteers or nominations.
I'll stay on it.
I'm happy to stay on too unless someone has a dying overriding, I want to do this.
I think Matt's got a lot going on with, now he's the clerk. Should we put someone else on that? I don't
We could
know.
do that.
I don't
You
know.
up for it?
I say we still have the
Sure.
capital funding committee member, and are we just one on that one? Just one. Okay.
I'll be honest with you, Brooke, I was anticipating you for the next one
Okay.
with your experience on construction and so forth.
I
But I don't want to volunteer you for something.
say, I don't know how much experience I have in that. My husband does a lot of it, but I'd have someone really good to talk to
There you
about
go.
it.
See, having good people on your team, that's important. Well, what do we want to do with the financial oversight committee? At the moment,
Brooke,
I
are
have-
you interested in that?
Let me see. I'll go wherever you want me. I'm great that way. So I could do either or, financial oversight committee or capital funding committee.
If I know I don't have a nomination here, but I would say that just having been in those committees, it's an exceptional way to get to learn about how the finances of a school district work. So I think it's not the worst idea for our two newbies to be in there so they can have more frequent exposure to it and some extended time with Julie there as well. So wouldn't be a bad idea.
I'd love to work with Julie more. So that, yeah, I'm good with that.
Madam President, I
Yes.
move that Adriana Lara, Susan Neal, and Brooke Ballard be our representatives for the Financial Oversight Committee.
Second.
All right. We have a motion, and a second. Any other nominations? Volunteers? Okay. We will vote on that, putting Adriana, Susan, and Brooke as the Financial Oversight Committee members. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and that moves us to our last one, which is our Capital Funding Committee member.
What's that?
How frequent of a,
Yeah, so
Position is that?
I was going to get in an intro. This is a new committee.
Yeah.
So I don't have an answer to the frequency of it. It would be something that we'd probably start convening, I don't know, within the next month or two. And the purpose of this is to really have including a school board member. There will be other school personnel, but this is going to be a pretty kind of county-wide type committee. We'd have county commissioner, we'd have a city member, people from all around the district and the county to, it would have multiple purposes, but the main ones being to make sure we are constantly being transparent with what we're doing with our capital improvement plans, helping to come and, utilize Stephen's recommendations, look at the new facilities assessments that we've received recently, figure out how to align all that. Also task ourselves with doing the best we can to secure capital improvement funding, whether through elections in a couple of years or through other sources. So really just focusing very specifically on gaining capital improvement funding and how to best use it. Just kind of working together so we're getting other opinions. That's kind of, I don't know, Julie, do you have anything else you want to add, or? I look to Julie for approval on a lot of things, and so thumbs up on that. Okay, thanks.
Jeff, so yeah.
I'm interested.
I know.
That's something, yeah,
But
it's,
if it's too much, I'm first year here.
So I will say this, I think.
and that's what I was wondering. is-
Jeff, I will say, I think with NASB, it being a legislative year, you might want to let somebody else tackle this
that's-
one. And Brooke, I think you'd be great.
I can still keep my pet projects.
Do we have any nominations? Those were just thoughts, but do we have any nominations?
I'm gonna go
Brooke, what are
ahead
your
and nominate
thoughts?
Brooke
Brooke,
Ballard.
Okay. Okay, do we
You
have a
good with that,
second?
Brooke?
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I haven't been asking if anyone's going to turn down these nominations. I apologize. You've all been appointed. I didn't give you the opportunity to turn down. We just gave you the opportunity, Brooke. You didn't. So this will be our last one. All in favor of appointing Brooke as our capital funding committee member, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, chair votes aye, and the board has been reorganized. Congratulations, everyone, and excited for another year. We'll move on to, I guess I should ask, is there anything else on that item before we move on? Any
Madam
questions or
Chair,
discussion? Yes, please.
If I
Yes.
may, go ahead, Brooke.
Oh.
Did you have something?
No.
Okay.
It was-
The Our policy one of our policies, and I apologize, I should have had this and I don't in front of me right now, but it does indicate that our organizational meeting also,
BFA.
thank you, BFA, also gives us the opportunity to look at the meeting time and date. And I don't think that we have it agendized quite properly to make any changes to that, but I would like to propose that at our next meeting, we consider moving our meetings 1 week, either forward or backwards, so that would then meet on the typically first and third Tuesdays. This would put us opposite of the schedule that the current Elko City Council is on. I'm not sure what other meetings that may run counter to if we went to a first and third, but that's just a proposal that I'd like to see added to our agenda for the next meeting.
Right, and I think that's a good thing to look at. So let's go ahead and since it is not agendized tonight, let's look at that for our next meeting. Let's go ahead and add that to our next agenda, and we can potentially look at different dates and times that we could be proposed at our next meeting for that. Whether it's the first and third Tuesday or the second and fourth Wednesday, or however we want to look at it. Let's look at maybe different things that are going on in the district and what might be a good time district-wide, and considering city council meetings and everything else to potentially move our board meetings. Okay, anything else? Like I say, we won't vote on that tonight, obviously, because it's not agendized specifically enough. I don't think, even though it is in our policy, that we could
Sure.
do that.
I
But
think
that's
as
a
we
good thing.
continue to move forward with that, something that I'd also like to look, and you touched on briefly, is timing as well. If 5:30 is the proper time, if we need to adjust that, considering obviously the impact to our staff, our teachers, et cetera, but also to the board members and admin as well.
All right, absolutely. I think it'll a great discussion. So everyone come with your thoughts for the next meeting. All right, we'll move on to item 2.2, receipt, review, and possible approval of resolution provided for the establishment of a special revenue fund within Elko County School District entitled E-Rate Fund. All right, Julie.
So this just creates a new fund so we can it'll help us track all our E-rate expenses and funds all in one place. It seems some of the expenses have been in the general fund and maybe some in another grant fund. So this will give Mac and everybody just one fund, and it's easier to track with the revenues and expenses and ending fund balance. So I was comparing our financial statements to Washoe's, just looking at formatting and stuff, and I noticed they had their own E-rate fund. So I thought that was a pretty good idea. So.
All right, any questions for Julie?
I think that makes sense. And Madam President, I move that we approve the resolution providing for the establishment of a special revenue fund within Elko County School District entitled the E-Rate Fund.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and that motion carries. And Julie, as always, thank you for always working to improve things with our financing and making things transparent and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 2.3 is receipt, review, and possible approval of new policy IIB, testing, high school equivalency assessment. Mr. Allen.
So basically, all this did is aligned us with what the law says. Our old policy was outdated and somewhat convoluted. After 2 or 3 months talking with Judy Wintermo, who teaches our adult ed, and trying to figure it out, I just sent it to Rob, and he drafted a policy for us.
Perfect. Any questions?
There was a previous policy related
Yes.
to this? Do we have do we need to replace that or repeal it?
Do you know what the previous policy was called, Paul?
I do not.
This is listed as just a new policy, so that's.
It
new
is
information.
listed as new. Are you certain we had a new policy before for it?
I thought we did. We had something we were following with, and I thought it was in policy, but I could be mistaken.
Well, I'll follow up with that, Jeff, if there was. I mean, I apologize in advance if there was, and we should have been rescinding that one here too. But we'll find out. may have one to remove next meeting, assuming you propose or you approve this one.
Another question I had just regarding the policies, why is this necessary? I looked through the NRS on it and it's a direct mirror of what NRS says, but it doesn't say that the district shall make a policy that says
So
this. I don't
what we were
understand why
doing
we need it.
We were backwards before on how we were doing things.
Right.
We were making you guys know that we've had a lot of these come through, and we were making the 17-year-olds come through and ask for board approval. They don't have to do that according to the law.
Right.
So I think it was just our effort to make things clear how we're going to conduct our business.
My question, maybe, and this is more towards you, CJ, is that it is in NRS. It's spelled out that way. Why do we need a policy that says that as well? What are we losing if we don't have this policy?
My answer to that is the same answer to when you brought that up regarding a previous policy, and that is we have many policies that mirror exactly what NRS says. And I don't know anything to tell you other than we have policies that are like that, and it's important that we put them there because while someone may be likely to see our policies and not NRS, NRS is quite substantial and exhaustive, and
You got to take a dive.
and we kind of take the stuff that applies to schools from NRS and we put it in our policies so people have it all in one place, school related stuff. So it does require some work on our part to put policies in place, but it is not, I promise it's not weird to have policies that are almost just parroting NRS. It's something that is done.
And I would say, Jeff, I think it's important for us because when things come up, especially since we're also new, most of us directors, when something comes up, policy is the first place we look. Or if a principal calls me and says, hey, how am I supposed to handle this? My first answer is, well, what's policy say? Let's look at policy. And it's a lot easier to read policy than it is to read NRS. Like CJ said,
Right.
when I'm looking for this stuff for the proficiency exam, it's 50 different laws instead of just succinctly, this is the part that we need to be concerned with.
Right. My concern being that if NRS changes, our policy does not automatically do so. And I'm wondering if we can reshape it in such a way that it, rather than just mirroring it, it relies upon NRS to where if NRS changes, then our policy would change automatically.
I mean, either way, we'd
In
have
the
to
way
do an
that it's
edit
written.
though, right? Or are you just, what I hear you saying is you'd like to have a policy that just says, we do what NRS whatever says, and just leave it at that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but, well.
So let me just help you out here a little bit more. This is very much for the purposes of all the normal people that have to deal with this stuff all the time. So whether it's the kids and the parents that have to see it, very frustrating to go somewhere that says, go see NRS, whatever. And then now I have to go find NRS, whatever, and read that. And I've been working with NRS for a while here, and I hate the layout of NRS. I hate having to find things. I hate how they link all over the place. So from that perspective, as a parent and a student who is not involved with doing this stuff often, it is nice to have something in a place at your local school district where you can see that. We have turnover in administrators, we have turnover in directors, and when that stuff is just in-house, yes, it creates an item for us to do when an NRS changes. But as you'll find out this year during the legislative session, when an NRS changes that has to do with us, we have all these people that tell us such and such NRS change that affects you. And then we just take that stuff back and we say, okay, no, well, that's what's supposed to happen. We take that stuff back and we say, all right, we need to go find this one and fix that and make sure it reflects accurately now. And so, yeah, it's a little redundancy, but from a practitioner standpoint and the people that have to receive that standpoint, this is useful.
So Jeff, are you looking at perhaps like a section 4 that says, should NRS 390.055 be changed, we'll follow with that?
And I don't think it necessarily applies to specifically this policy. I'm saying any policy that we do.
So we could add
the weapons policy, for example, is something that could change very easily in the legislative session. And it would be up to us to stay on top of that and throughout the past year, I've seen where several of these policies that have been brought to us to change or to repeal are ones that we missed, that were old and that were antiquated and not, so I'm trying to avoid that or think through a way out loud here to avoid that in the future.
I would just say that's our job to do a good job of that, Jeff.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that without saying someone else didn't do a good job, but that's our job to make sure that gets done right.
Be said, if
So-
it wasn't done, then it wasn't done.
And this is something that was, I can't remember the exact date, but it's been during the past 10 years, at least, that this changed. The test itself changed. We went from the old GED and we went to this, and the requirements for who could take the test had changed. And I think that's why there was so much confusion, is we, even looking at the NRS and looking at NAC, it wasn't clear. And so this makes my life a lot easier when something comes through and I can reference this, or in wherever, when I retire down the road for the guy that takes over for me. It's just a lot easier to have access to these things on board docs. You can look at it, you can find it, it's succinct. It was written by Rob, so it's a little bit easier to understand than the legislative language sometimes. And it just makes life easier for us.
For the record, I read them both.
Did you have a comment, Tanner?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if if mirroring the NRS policies down to our district, would that make it, would that put the district with more responsibility to like administer the tests or all the requirements around the tests?
Nope.
No, it wouldn't. This is this is stuff we're doing already, Tanner. We're not adding anything new here. It's just we're putting out in plain language how it's supposed to work and making the process clearer for everybody who might need to take advantage or utilize this system. So,
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
And hi, Tanner. Tanner was our office aide last year, my last year at Spring Creek High School, and he was awesome.
Mr. Allen, if it helps any, a quick search through board docs. I'm not seeing a specific policy on that, though within IHF, which is the academic achievement graduation requirements, it does mention being able to take a test. I guess not in opposition to, but as opposed to a graduation requirement to be able to take a test. That may be part of where that policy was, if that's helpful any during research, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Allen.
I think it may have just been how we did things, and Judy did have a document that explained it, but even the teacher wasn't clear on it. So this was clarification.
There's a good chance it was just practice. Rob is very on top of making sure we get rid of ones that we need to get rid of when replacing. So that's why I was a little thrown off. I'm like, I don't think we do, because we would have caught it. But sometimes we make mistakes. So we'll look through thoroughly and make sure there's not one there that needs to be gone.
I don't think there is. I spent a little bit of time on this today.
Yeah.
So in that case, then we're just
Adopting
clarifying
the
policy.
Yep.
Yes.
For clarifying across 26 sites, how this is going to go per state law.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's a great way to put it too. A lot of things that we do in the district are different from school site to school site, which is a nightmare from someone who is trying to oversee all of it. We're running into a lot of those things as we go through our policies and we change things. And this is one of those that it just makes it, we do it this way and this is how we do it.
All right, what's the will of the board?
Madam Chair. Sorry, just finishing reading through one more question that I had, but I think we're good to go. Madam Chair, I move to approve policy IIB as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
No, second.
All right. I have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the motion carries. Thanks, Mr. Allen. All right, item 2.4 is receipt of quarterly update reports. All right.
While we're waiting for that presenter to come up, Brooke and Tanner, for your information as well, we talked about NRS, and then Mr. Allen also mentioned NAC. NAC is the Nevada Administrative Code. So in essence, legislature passes the law, and then, for lack of better terms, the bureaucrats then put it into how we're going to administer this. So that's what NAC is.
Mr. Krinka.
Hi, everybody. For the fun topic, human resources. I'm the director of human resources. I'm just come up to talk to you today a little bit about our job postings. If you've gotten on there, you may have gotten a little freaked out or a little nervous because there's about 55 to 60 new postings for positions on there. I'll tell you why I'm not too worried, why I can still sleep at night. Those positions are primarily our long-term subs from the district. And while we still need to find people, licensed individuals, to fill those positions, and we can get rid of those long-term subs. I don't see them as complete vacancies, so to speak, because we still have those individuals that can be there. We still have those retirees that can fill those positions. Those subs can still be there if they want to. A lot of those positions are student teachers currently, which could be offered that position at the end of the year. And of those positions, when I said 55 to 60, only 2 that I can think of off the top of my head, 2 are anticipated resignations or retirements. So even though we have a lot of people on there, we still have someone that could be there next fall if that's the case. We put them on early so that we can get people early. I think we've hired 4 people just last week. Those positions are still up. They're qualified. They've gone through, we've gotten verbal, yes, we'll come there next year, which is why we have it out that early. What else are we doing? We do have 12 career fairs that we're going to. We've got one at the end of this month. It's a virtual one. I think the last time I was here, I talked about Ed Week or Glassdoor. I was going to do one of those. We decided to go with Ed Week. That virtual fair will be at the end of on the 26th. So I'll spend the day on a computer meeting, hopefully people that want to find jobs here in our district. We also have the usual career fairs that we go to. It's not quite the usual. I can be blunt and honest. It's not quite the usual in the fact that we found that some of the career fairs, I call them career fairs because the number of teacher candidates out there is lower than the number of people, than the number of school districts. So we've combined with just all majors and all career fairs, which superintendent, I think, is not a bad idea because then with our ARL option, if people can come by and say, hey, they might not see any other options and like, oh, you have a science degree. Well, if you go into here in Nevada, you can get an ARL and we can have those conversations for different routes to licensing by just attending career fairs for all majors. So we'll be doing that in Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, and of course here in Nevada. Let's see. Doing those, we've also noticed that there's a lot more front loading is what I've called them. We used to be doing career fairs all the way through April, May, and now most of them are done the second week of March. Everybody's in the same situation that we are. This morning I was on a meeting with the other, I call them Cal counties, the rural HR directors, and we're all in the same boat, trying to figure out what we're doing. We're going back and forth, asking each other questions on any ideas of what to do. We're doing everything, in my opinion, we're doing everything else that everybody else is doing. Mr. Smith and I are both on the Coalition for Retention and Recruiting within the state. There's nothing there that we're not doing. So I think, unless you can think of something, I think we're doing everything we can to fill these positions. I do obviously anticipate retirements and resignation as the time goes on. I'll be asking the superintendent to put the buyouts on the first meeting in February. The reason that is because by contract, those buyouts have to be decided by March 1st. So this gives you one meeting to review. If there's anything, questions or things that aren't answered with that, and that meeting, that gives you another meeting to postpone it and not call a special meeting just in case you need to, which we've done in the past. So this gives us that chance by still meeting the March 1st deadline. Is there any questions on that?
How many, and this, if you don't know that, I understand. How many student teachers do we have?
I don't know.
Do you have a guesstimate?
Yeah, I think my guesstimate would be probably 6 or 8. Yeah. And then don't forget, we still have some retirees that can stick around. That brings up the fact that back in August or this summer, you guys passed a critical needs for substitutes. That's still in place for next year. So anybody that retires this year, we can pick them up in October as well for any long-term sub positions that we might need. We can still keep the ones that are working now if they want to. Hope so. If we need.
On that same topic, when it comes to, as we start to get a better picture of what it's looking like, we will, from a staffing standpoint, You can just anticipate that we'll probably be coming back to determine which needs we want to label as critical needs again, because the 2-year one that we have for whichever ones we have right now, that there's a list. That's going to expire at the end of this school year. So we'll have to renew that again, but we'll get that to you soon. Tanner, you got a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, with the long-term substitutes, is it more of a everywhere has enough, or is it area to area? Like Elko has a lot and Wells doesn't have very many, or is it just around the whole district? It's pretty even.
I would say it's proportional to the size of the community, it seems. Obviously, Elko has a lot because we have a lot more teachers in that area as well. So it's fairly proportional. I don't see a specific community. In fact, I can think of 2 schools that don't have a long-term sub off the top of my head, but everybody has them. It's a good question.
Thank you.
Mr. Krink, is there a conversion rate for long-term subs into full-time benefited employees? Does that make sense? I guess.
Do you mean like that turn into full-time teachers? Is that what you're saying?
How long does it take, you mean? Or
either how long does it take, or how many
Or how often?
do we
does
have?
that
Yeah,
happen?
how
Is what I
often
asked.
does it happen? Is it something that's always churning?
Usually
or-
these long-term subs are our student teachers that we're talking about. Those would be the ones that turn into it. Some of them could be, can't think of any off the top of my head, that might be working on a different degree that could then turn around and try the ARL route. I can't think of any of those because I figure if you're going in this, you'd be in education in the first place. I do know that there are long-term subs that are years out, meaning that they're not going to be student teaching this year. They might be student teaching next year. I've talked to 2 of them just this last Friday that are in that position. And then talked to other ones that are a year from now. And then I've talked to one that is all the way in fall of 24. So we have those people that are in the system as long-term subs and want to be educators. But the conversion rate of how fast it's going faster because of the need. The state's working on it. I'm on a committee that's working on trying to figure out ways where we can change the student teaching at colleges, and of course our universities are on that committee, trying to figure out what we can do with student teachers to get them into the classroom sooner, like supervising them for maybe a year instead of a semester. That's very, very, very early stage, and I don't know when that'll take place. I know that there's some BDRs in the legislature that are changing asking to change the long-term sub pay and get rid of that first 4 weeks for student teachers, because student teachers can't be paid those first 4 weeks by statute. And there's a BDR out there, supposedly, because I haven't seen them all, that it gets rid of that so we can change those. So it seems like everything that can be done can be done. Of course, we're still trying to figure out what we can do. And if you guys have any ideas, we're opening to them, as is the superintendent, because we do sit on a lot of committees.
And by conversion rate, I thought you were asking, have we kept track of, out of 50 long-term subs, 7 became full-time teachers the next year? Is that what you were asking? Like how many do we turn essentially?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like you
How many
said,
are in the pipeline?
Yeah,
And you kind of answered that.
we're working on them. We've also, I would say that the pathways are becoming not easier, but more abundant compared to the past. From when I first got here, it felt like there was kind of one route for most people. If you're going to get your ARL, you're doing it this way. And there's many more now. And you haven't seen the BDRs, but I have. There are probably 3 or 4 proposed bill drafts that are specifically to this topic. So it's and the governor told us last week that they're important to him. So I think they're gonna, these are big.
A quick spell out the acronyms so that our new members know.
Bill
BDR, ARL.
draft. What is the R in bill draft?
Probably resolution.
I think it's
Draft
Request.
Close.
And on that
ARL
alternate
is-
route of licensure,
ARL. Licensure.
if somebody were to go an ARL because they already have a bachelor's, would they be considered a student teacher at some point, or do they
Not
go in-
necessarily.
No,
Okay,
that's a
not
different
necessarily.
licensing.
So the student teachers.
I was an
then-
ARL teacher. That's how I got into the profession. So,
Okay.
yeah, and I was being paid like a full-time teacher for my first year of teaching. It just depends which program you're going through. And like I said,
So the
options.
student teacher is in the traditional education degree.
They typically haven't got their degree yet.
Still trying to get a bachelor's, yeah.
Great. I think that was all the questions. That was a really long discussion. Sorry.
All right,
Sounds good.
any other questions for Cody? All right, thank you for
Thanks.
the update. All right. Cassie is up next. Our grants update summary.
Still on. Okay, good evening. So for policy DDD, I'm required to provide an annual report to show you the private sources of grant funding. I figured it's a good time beginning of the year, and then since Brooke is here, I included all the grant funding, so you can see that. And then I listed private outside of that. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Thank you for the grant summary. It helps me too.
No problem.
Yeah.
Good,
And thanks for
easy.
your work on securing these grants that you had a part in. I know some are private and they just kind of show up, but we appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thanks, Cassie. All right, we'll move on to item 3.1, which is our consent agenda.
Madam Chair, move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
If I may, typically, Tanner, the consent agenda is just a bunch of housekeeping stuff that is pretty innocuous and or it's private because of confidentiality. And so we just approve it all in one lump sum.
All right. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the consent agenda is approved. Item 4.1 is a report from our NASB director. Old and new, same person. Go ahead, Jeff.
Headed to Reno this weekend. We're going to have some training regarding agenda right here. Bullying prevention. We're going to talk about restorative practices, and we're also going to talk about purpose of the threat assessments and emergency operation plans. So looking forward to that one coming up, and I'll have a full report on that in February. I'm going to try as hard as I can to be to the next meeting via Zoom, but we'll see how the Wi-Fi is. So.
All right, any questions or guidance for Jeff? All right, we'll move on to item 4.2, items from board members. And we've already had a recommendation for something for our next agenda. So anything else?
Could you put stars on the next agenda too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Madam President, if we could also discuss a date in which we can look through board goals and also kind of, we just did board organization, but I guess board structure, how we want to kind of manage ourselves.
Yes, policies, procedure, or not policies, but procedures and protocols. I think that's a great idea to look at that. And perhaps we do it in the form of a board workshop where we just discuss, but then obviously we don't make big decisions except in a public meeting. So let's agendize that for a date, or do we want to, as a board, let Cassie know a date that we could work on that? Let's, what would you guys like to do? I'm not asking for a vote. I'm asking for your thoughts.
I think it's important that we have Adriana in as well. And I know that Jeff is going to be traveling as well. So I would suggest that we do it in February. And depending on what our next meeting does, if we change board meetings, kind of throws it up into the air. I'd like to see if we can get it done before the 10th of February. Should be the second, 1.5 weeks into February, just so that we can kind of get it out and start working on it. Jeff, you're back by February, right?
Yeah, my date's out. I'll be gone on the 20th and back February 1st.
And just so everybody else knows, I don't believe I have anything that takes me out of town the first 10 days of February. Not that it's all about me, but just to let folks know where I'm at.
Well, we need a clerk.
All right, well, let's look at that sometime prior to the February 10th meeting then. some
We'll
potential
say by
dates.
that point, I think we'll have one more finalization of our strategic planning, but our last kind of like big strategic planning meeting is on January 30th. And so by that time, we would have a pretty good fleshed out strategic plan that should aid in some of those conversations.
Okay.
I just had two quick things, if that's all right. First of all, I wanted to thank you guys for the explanation on policy. I think it sunk in a little better today as far as the why on it and how that makes it easier. So I appreciate that. Another one that just came to me as we were talking about buyouts. I remember how that was last year. It was kind of a big deal. And I would like us to possibly consider a policy going forward on buyouts so that people know what to expect coming in, if that's at all potentially available. I know, for example, last year we looked at certain years of service, and anybody was above, we went ahead and granted. Anything below, and I would hate to see that change from year to year, although I know our financial situation may change also. But if we could codify that somehow in a policy to where people know kind of coming in, whether what they're asking for is going to be granted or not, that might aid us and take a little of the pressure off from year to year, as knowing who's going to go one way or go the other. Because I know in previous years I've heard about how contentious that can be.
Would it be okay if Julie made a comment about that?
We'd love to have Julie make a comment about anything.
So all that is already documented between PERS regulations, and I believe it's in the union agreements, right? Somewhere it says you need 20 years of service. So that's already all documented.
Yeah, so and to add to that, knowing the application they fill out when they apply to be included in the buyout, all of that stuff is reiterated in there, if I'm not mistaken. And do you meet X criteria, X criteria, X criteria? And so sometimes people put their name in anyway, even if they don't meet the criteria. And unfortunately, when you're in the unenviable position that sometimes we are in to make people disappointed, like we make those decisions anyway. I think you hit the nail on the head there with why it may not be in policy already. And that is because circumstances do change drastically from year to year from a funding standpoint. And so I think I would say we don't have policy about it, but we do. It's stronger than procedure. It's like qualification criteria. And I don't know, sometimes people apply for jobs they're not qualified for and you get shot down, but hey, I'm gonna apply anyway. And that's kind of what happens sometimes with the buyouts. People know they don't qualify for it, but they're really hoping someone's gonna do them a solid, so to speak. And we just have to make the best decision every year with what our circumstances are and what our budget looks like and people feel like making a decision on, which I know can lead to potentially, that also depends on who's on the board and
right.
maybe what they're feeling right now, right? Like it is very subjective, but I think by nature it's a subjective process, and people, it can't be concrete and this is who is going to get it and this is who is not, because that is very dependent upon what our budget looks like, and we can't box ourselves in.
Yeah. All right.
I do think, if I may, I think it may be good though to create policy similar to what we do with NRS that says policy is PERS only allows this. So we will not exceed PERS. So I think it could be a good idea, similar to the discussion we had earlier of, well, then it's in one spot. We know exactly what, without having to dig through the contract, without having to dig through PERS paperwork to say, here are your criteria. And yes, you want to apply, great, but we're going to automatically reject this because it doesn't follow policy. And that's not subjective. That's simply saying we're not allowed to allow you to have a buyout under PERS. So that could be something that might be handy and helpful, and take a little heat off of us to a degree.
Last year, it came down to years of service. I believe we went 28 years and beyond, right? Anything less. And that also ended up in a split vote on the motion too.
Go ahead, Julie.
I was just going to say, I think some boards, sometimes circumstances come up where they wanted to do a buyout for somebody. So they left that flexibility there, but it's up to the board if they want to do a policy that Yes, boxes in there. Just
And I think if PERS allows that, then that can be written into the policy. But if PERS says you must have 20 years, at the minimum, our policy is you must have 20 years, period. There's no way around that.
Yeah.
And so that gives us still that flexibility, but if we can't exceed PERS's purview. So similar to what we do with NRS, we can't exceed NRS. We can't exceed PERS either, Public Employee Retirement System, sorry, PERS. And so that's just what I'm looking at is maybe it is a very tiny policy that just says must have 20 years. That's it. Everything else is fair game. I don't know, but that could be something that from a policy standpoint, we can fall back on to say, no, we're going to reject these outright. They don't follow with our policy, and our policy follows PERS, which is state law.
The 20 years is the PERS regulation. That's in negotiating.
That's where I was going to go with that is a lot of this is negotiated with the unions too. And so,
the PERS requirement is more like you can only buy 5 total
5
years. So
total
if we buy 2, the employee can only buy a max of 3. We look at the PERS eligibility for retirement, and they are phasing out buyouts. Anyone hired after a certain date is not eligible. I'd have to look up what that is, but
That could be stuff that we might put into a policy if that's what we're looking at. Because again, PERS says you can't do a buyout if you were hired after 2010 or whatever. That's not the date, just throwing a date out there. Okay. Just as a thought. Thank you.
So maybe it would be helpful if we had prior to the buyout.
How about I collect relevant information and I share it with each of you, and you can see what all that information says, and you can decide if you would like me to consider things further after that, because we do have quite a bit of negotiated and pretty solid information already. And anyone who's not doing it the right way or thinks they're going to circumvent it, it's a Hail Mary, which succeeds much less often than a Hail Mary does.
I always enjoy reading through the information you compile for us.
Got you.
Thank you.
Google
that was
folder
going to be
coming
my
your way.
request is could you share with
Google
the board
folder.
information about buyout so everyone can be fully educated prior to getting into those meetings? That would be fantastic.
It's a job for Cody. I got
All right.
assigned.
All right. Anything else on item 4.2 before we move on to the superintendent's report? All right, Mr. Anderson, you're up.
All right, making my note here. I won't say a whole lot. I hope everyone had a great holiday break. Susan, since we just decided we're going to agendize stars for next meeting, shall I do you want me to back off right now or just say them? Okay. So you're good if I go ahead? You approve former and current chair committee or committee chair. Susan and Kayla and I had the monthly privilege today to go to a couple of schools to recognize amazing people. And I'm not going to read the stuff because we'll do that at next meeting, but I'll just quickly mention their names. We were able to honor Mr. Jeff Sarbacker at Elko High School. He's a math teacher extraordinaire, and he was selected as the certified STARS award winner for this month. And Miss Maria Roman, who is a custodian at Spring Creek Elementary, was selected as the classified STARS award winner for the month of January. And they were both delightfully surprised. And we even had junior Bobby the Bobcat with us for Maria Roman. They got the mascot there for some great photo op, and it was just a good time. It's always, not that anything's inherently negative in what we do, but those are extraordinarily positive moments. And we'll share more about what happened next meeting, but it was great to honor them. And thanks to Susan and that committee for continuing to acknowledge excellent employees. Want to let you, the board, and the public know as well. This is probably more for the public than the board, but it's for everybody. You're public too. There's a tribal consultation Public hearing to be held at 2:00 on Tuesday, February 7th. Here, no, yes, here, but not here, like over there, here at the Resource Library in this building, couple rooms over, one room over. And that is in accordance with section 8538 of the Every Student Succeeds Act. Tribal leaders, tribal organizations, Native American parents, Native American students, and the general public are invited to share recommendations regarding programs and services to meet the needs of Native American students in Elko County. So that is on February 7th, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Next, we had an awesome kickoff meeting with Apogee yesterday. I believe I've mentioned Apogee a couple of times to you. We're officially kicked off. That doesn't mean we have something going yet, but it means we met with them and we're starting to, move the gears. Apogee, as a point of reference, is the company that I told you we're working with to kind of help with our website, and then also have an integrated app that puts everything all in one place for our parents and students and community. So we are taking steps forward now that it's not just a conversation anymore, it's happening. So it's a new website host, includes the app, streamline alerts, messages, and we are anticipating a launch in late June, hopefully no later than July 1. So it'd be ready to go for the next school year. I forgot to verify this with Paul or Candace, but they can just nod or shake their heads. Math textbook adoption training started this week. Is that, or they are starting this week? Tomorrow. All right. So yes, head nods. We are starting. So the textbook adoption teachers are being trained and they will get going on the first of the pilots that they're going to be working on. So math textbook adoption moving forward. And and this is not directed at any one person, so hopefully they're not even listening, but I get plenty of comments, criticisms, questions about weather-related decisions that we make from a school standpoint. Everyone please drive safely, make good decisions. We make the best decisions we can with the information we have, and we don't make them in a vacuum. I don't wake up in the morning and look out the window and say, 2-hour delay. That's not how that works. Nor does my son's friend texting him saying, tell your dad to cancel school tomorrow. That also isn't part of the process. We have educated and individuals and professionals from all sorts of industries that help us make those decisions. And I'm happy for people who are happy with the decision. I'm sorry for people who are unhappy with the decision. But we make those decisions best we can, and ask your forgiveness where you think we've come up short, and just no matter what, make the best decision for yourself and be safe in the inclement weather.
And on behalf of the Elko Senior Center, I appreciate that you have a cadre of people that you consult with, because I get texts too, hey, ask the school district to close today because I don't want to go to work. That doesn't work either.
That's the best. Ask your dad. I'm like, Eli, go to bed. You got school in the morning. All right. And that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. We'll move on to item 6.1, approval of the accounts payable. And Brooke, just for your information, I know you've attended these meetings, but we will look at the accounts payable and if there are any questions, but then we will ask if there if you need to abstain, or if you have any disclosures, say you have a family member, or I won't go into the language of it, but if you have a family member or close acquaintance that would in any way financially be tied to you, you would need to abstain from voting generally, but not always. We can get some training on that as well soon. So we will go ahead and any questions on the accounts payable, and then we'll go on. If you've got questions, ask.
I think I'm going to have to abstain on one then.
Okay, which is fine. All right. Any questions for Julie?
So, no questions
Okay.
other than for Miss Brooke, which one should we pull out so that we can make that in the motion?
It's just it's the Wells Rural Electric.
Oh.
Which is the same as mine.
Yeah,
So,
because I have a family member.
yeah.
Great. So the other packet is great.
Mhm.
Perfect. Madam President, move to approve the accounts payable for January 10, 2023.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any abstentions or disclosures on that one? Okay. All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and those are approved. We have one more
Go
portion.
ahead and move. We approve the Wells Rural accounts payable for January 10th, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I will disclose that I have a family member who is employed by Wells Rural Electric, so I will abstain.
And I will also abstain because I have a family member
Right.
employed by Wells Rural Electric.
All right, thank you. Perfect,
all I
Brooke.
have to
Well
say.
done. You got it. You got it. All right, any other questions? All right, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And with the 2 abstentions, motion still carries. All right. We'll, Julie, thank you for always being available. All right, this is a final opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone who wishes to make a comment. All right, again, Tanner, we appreciate you being here with us tonight. We appreciate your input and congratulations on doing so well your senior year. Best of luck. Maybe we'll see you again.
Thank you.
And thanks
Right.
for the fizz.
And thanks for keeping our superintendent functional. All right, we will move on to item 8.1, which is adjournment of the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night and travel home safely.
Thank you.
Yes, don't leave without the signatures. All right, do we want to wait until we've got Adriana here?
Tanner has some good questions.
Adriana's not here.
Want headshots or you want to wait?
Yeah, sorry, because I'm like, yeah, we could get one, but